Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It was just past midnight when I heard the key turn in the front door. The kitchen clock ticked loudly in the silence. I was sitting at the island, lights low, cup of cold coffee in hand, waiting. Grace walked in, coat still on, hair windswept, like she'd just stepped out of a magazine shoot instead of a business meeting. She paused when she saw me. "You scared me," she said, closing the door behind her. "Why are you up?" "I could ask you the same thing," I replied, my voice calm. Too calm. She walked past me, dropped her purse on the counter. "Amanda and I were going over layout ideas for the flower boutique. We lost track of time. Until after midnight." I tilted my head, watching her carefully. Was the blueprint drawn on a napkin at a bar? Her jaw tightened. "We were at her house, Ethan." I leaned back. "Funny. I called. Twice." Grace spun around, her coat still half on. "What? Are you checking up on me now?" "No," I said slowly. "I was just trying to talk to my wife. But I guess Amanda needed you more." She yanked off her coat and threw it onto the stool. "This is ridiculous. You never trusted Amanda's ideas anyway." "I trust good ideas," I said, setting my coffee down. "I don't trust bad lies." Grace's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me." I stood. Midnight meetings, no calls back, vague stories about dream businesses. "Grace, you're not even trying to make it believable." She laughed, sharp, bitter. "You're unbelievable, Ethan. Do you honestly think I'm lying about working on something with Amanda? You think I'd cheat on you?" "I think," I said, stepping closer, "you're defensive about something. And people don't get defensive unless they've got something to defend." Her voice cracked like ice. "You know what? You're the problem. Always suspicious. Always watching me like I'm one of your case files." I smiled faintly. Old habits die hard. But they've saved me from a lot of heartache. She shook her head, grabbing her glass from the sink. "This is toxic." "No," I said, leaning against the counter. "This is me finally asking why my wife is more emotionally available to Amanda's husband than to me." Her hand froze on the glass. The air thickened, the warmth of our cozy Portland kitchen replaced by something colder, bare, sharp-edged. Grace looked like she might say something, but instead she just turned and walked upstairs without a word. I stood alone, surrounded by the hum of the refrigerator and the silence she left behind. Once, this kitchen smelled like rosemary bread and fresh coffee on Sundays. Now it held nothing but suspicion. And trust me, that was just the beginning. It was one of those early spring Sundays when Portland pretends to be California. Clear skies, soft breeze, sun just warm enough to make the grass smell alive again. Amanda's garden was in full bloom, full of bright daffodils and little strings of white lights wrapped around the patio beams. The kind of place that makes you forget people lie. There were maybe 20 of us there, mostly neighbors, a few friends from Grace's yoga circle. Jack manned the grill in his Ray-Bans, flipping burgers like he was auditioning for a commercial. Amanda, radiant in her white sundress, floated between guests, carrying plates and refilling drinks like this was her wedding reception. Grace stayed mostly near the drinks table, laughing a bit too loud, her hand always gripping a fresh glass of white wine. She hadn't said much to me since that night in the kitchen. Just the standard stuff. "We need milk. The trash needs to go out. Did you walk Tucker?" Married silence. I took my time getting to Amanda. Waited until she wasn't being swallowed by small talk. She was arranging napkins on the buffet table when I finally strolled up beside her. "Hey," I said casual. "This looks great. You really know how to throw something together." Amanda smiled, but her eyes flinched. "Thanks. Just something simple." I picked up a lemon tart from the tray. "So how's the boutique coming along?" Her fingers froze for a split second. She blinked. "The boutique?" "Yeah." I nodded slowly. "Grace said you two were working late last week, finalizing the plan." Amanda laughed, too quickly. "Oh, yeah, right. That." She fumbled with the serving tongs. "Well, it's still early, you know. We're tossing ideas around. Nothing's really locked in." "Of course," I said, keeping my tone light. "I just thought maybe you'd nailed down some layout or branding stuff, since Grace got home around 1. Amanda looked like someone had just dimmed her internal light. "Oh, well, you know how we get. Time flies when you're brainstorming." "Right," I said. "Just checking. I'm rooting for you too. Sounds exciting." And that's when I felt her presence before I saw her. Grace stormed over like a summer thunderstorm crashing into a picnic. Her voice cut through the laughter of a nearby conversation. "Ethan, what are you doing?" I turned slowly. She stood there, jaw clenched, wine glass trembling just slightly. I smiled easy. "Just chatting with Amanda. Catching up." Grace's eyes flicked to Amanda, then back to me. "Catching up? Or interrogating?" Amanda shifted awkwardly. "Grace." "No." Grace snapped. "He does this. Makes it sound friendly, but it's not. He's always poking." The guests around us went quiet, heads turning. Even Jack stopped flipping burgers. I held up my hands. I asked about the boutique. "That's all." Grace took a sharp step closer. "You always do this in public. You embarrass me. You can't let anything go, can you?" My voice stayed calm. "I just asked a question." Amanda seemed caught off guard, that's all. Amanda tried to intervene. "Maybe we should." Grace cut her off. "It's fine. Just drop it." The silence that followed was heavy. You could almost hear the petals closing. I gave Grace a measured look. "Sure, I'll drop it." She turned and walked off without another word, heels crunching the gravel with purpose. Amanda didn't meet my eyes. People started murmuring again, conversations cautiously picking up, but the energy had shifted. The warmth of the gathering had taken a hit, like someone had unplugged the sun. I walked away slowly, nodding politely at the guests who avoided my gaze. On the surface, this was just an awkward moment. But inside, I could feel it. The cracks were starting to show. And the people who lie? They're always the ones who flinch first. That night, the laughter from Amanda's garden party still echoed faintly in my ears, warped now into something hollow. Grace and I rode home in silence, the kind where the radio stays off and neither of us bothers to pretend we're okay. Her window was cracked slightly. Wind tugged at her hair. I didn't say a word. She went straight upstairs when we got home, didn't even kick off her shoes until she reached the bedroom. I followed, slow and deliberate, listening to the quiet thud of her heels across the floorboards. By the time I entered, she was already peeling off her dress, slipping into one of her oversized t-shirts like it was armor. I sat on the edge of the bed and unbuttoned my shirt with slow fingers. The lamp cast a soft light across the room, revealing everything and nothing. "Rough ending to the party," I said. She didn't look at me. "Don't start." I folded my shirt neatly and set it on the dresser. "You came at me in front of half the neighborhood." "I came at you," she snapped, turning sharply. "You were cornering Amanda." I asked how the flower boutique was going. I replied calmly. "You know exactly what you were doing," she shot back. That smug tone. That look. Always trying to trip people up. I met her glare without flinching. She didn't know what I was talking about. Grace. She froze. Grace laughed, sharp and bitter. "People freeze all the time, Ethan. Not everyone rehearses answers like you." I leaned back against the headboard. I wasn't expecting rehearsed. I was expecting the truth. She crossed her arms. "There it is. You think I'm lying. Again." "I think something doesn't add up," I said. "And today, you made sure no one could ask about it without getting shut down." Grace let out a groan, pacing. "God, it's exhausting, this constant suspicion. You're turning me into some kind of villain." I tilted my head. "Am I?" She stopped. "You're watching me. Every move I make. Waiting for me to slip. Like you want to catch me in something." "No," I said quietly. "I want you to be who you say you are." Her jaw clenched. Her fingers curled at her sides like she was trying to keep herself from throwing something. I continued, voice even. "You told me you and Amanda were working late. I believed you, until today. Until she didn't know what business we were supposedly building." Grace's lips parted, but nothing came out. Just the smallest twitch in her brow. I stood and walked toward the closet. "You want me to stop asking questions? Fine. But maybe you should ask yourself why the questions bother you so much." She turned away, sat heavily on the edge of the bed, and buried her face in her hands. Silence filled the room like a rising tide. I didn't push, didn't lecture. I just stood there, watching the way her shoulders trembled slightly, like she was folding in on herself. And in that moment, the truth wasn't in anything she said. It was in everything she didn't. The sun wasn't even fully up when I heard the wheels of her suitcase click down the hallway. Grace stood by the front door, her hair tied up in that careless way she used when she didn't want to deal with the world. She had on a dark coat I didn't recognize and a pair of oversized sunglasses, too early for sun, but just right for hiding something. I was still in my robe, sipping the first cup of coffee. Tucker sat at my feet, watching her the way dogs do when they sense something's off. She didn't say good morning, just reached for the doorknob, then glanced back. I'm heading out for a few days. I raised an eyebrow. Yeah. Lake Tahoe, she said. Cabin. Just me. I nodded, took a slow sip. Nice place. Long drive, though? I need space, Ethan. I gave her a look that wasn't cold. Just still. You already have it. She exhaled hard through her nose. This isn't working. This tension. You're suffocating me. And the air in Tahoe's thinner, so I hope that helps, I said lightly. Grace blinked, clearly caught off guard by the lack of fight. She tightened her grip on the suitcase handle. Don't call me while I'm gone. I wasn't planning to. Her brows drew in slightly, unsure how to process that. You're not even curious how long I'll be gone. No, I said, because I already know you're not sure yourself. That one hit something. I saw it in the way her jaw shifted. She turned back toward the door. I'm doing this for my sanity. Don't make it about something else. I walked over, leaned casually against the entryway. Grace, I said softly, if you need to get away, then get away. Everyone deserves quiet when the noise in their head gets too loud. She paused. That hesitation, just for a second, was the closest thing to honesty I'd seen in weeks. I reached for the door handle and opened it for her. The cold air rushed in, sharp and clean. She stepped out, dragging the suitcase down the front steps. Just before she reached the car, she turned back over her shoulder, her voice flat but cutting. You've become so boring. I smiled. Drive safe. The door clicked shut behind her. I stood there a moment, watching from the front window as she loaded the bag into the trunk. She moved like she was being watched, maybe hoping for a final word, maybe expecting me to run out and ask her to stay. But I didn't. The engine turned over, and the car rolled slowly down the street. Tucker let out a soft huff and laid his head on his paws. I looked around at the house. The plants Grace hadn't watered in a week, the pile of open mail, the half-folded laundry on the couch. Every sign pointed to a woman too distracted to live here. And now? Now the house was quiet, but not empty. I stood in the silence, coffee still warm in my hand, and for the first time in a while, I didn't feel like I was the one being left behind. The house felt too quiet without Grace. No footsteps upstairs, no drawers opening and closing with purpose, no faint hum of her playlist drifting from the bathroom speaker. She'd been gone less than a day, but already the absence echoed louder than her presence ever had. By mid-afternoon, I found myself driving toward Amanda's place. Not to stir trouble. Not yet. Just to see what someone else saw when they looked at all this. I figured she deserved that much. Her house was only a few streets over. Classic craftsman, well-kept lawn, fresh white paint on the porch railings. The kind of place that looked like nothing bad could ever happen there. Amanda answered the door wearing workout leggings and a knit sweater, her hair pulled into a loose braid. Her makeup was minimal, rare for her, but her smile was warm. Ethan, she said, surprised. Hi. Sorry for dropping in, I said. Do you have a few minutes? Yeah, of course. Come in. She led me into the living room, where sunlight poured across the hardwood floor and everything smelled faintly of jasmine. She motioned to the couch. Saturday, you want coffee? Tea? No, I said gently. This won't take long. She sat down across from me, crossing her legs, curious. But there was a tension there too, just under the surface. I took a breath. I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to just hear me out before you react. Amanda's smile faded. Okay. I think Grace is having an affair. Her face twitched. The kind of reaction you can't fake. With who? She asked, like it was procedure. Like she already knew. I didn't answer right away. Just let the silence stretch. Then I said it. With Jack. Amanda went still. It was like watching a porcelain doll try to stay upright on a shaking table. She blinked fast. Once, twice. Then she gave a tight little laugh. Jack. I nodded. I think it's been going on for a while. The lies. The timing. Lake Tahoe, just the two of them. She's not there alone, Amanda. Amanda's lips parted like she might say something, but no sound came out. I leaned forward. I know how that sounds. I didn't come here to accuse. I came here because, if you felt it too, even for a second, you deserve to know you're not crazy. Amanda slowly stood, unsteady. She picked up her phone from the side table and dialed. I watched her. Her hands shook. She put the phone to her ear. Jack? Hey, call me back when you get this, okay? It's important. Her voice cracked on the last word. She hung up and dialed again, This time, Grace. Straight to voicemail. Amanda lowered the phone slowly. She said she needed space. She said she was going off-grid for a few days. I'm sure she did. Amanda turned toward the window, pressing a hand to her mouth. No. No, she wouldn't. Jack, he wouldn't. I didn't respond. There was nothing I could say that she wasn't already thinking now. She whipped around. Do you have proof? Did you see something? No. Not yet. Just instinct. Pattern. And her panic when I brought it up at the party. Amanda stared at me like I'd just unzipped her life in front of her. Her eyes were glossy now, her voice edged with something darker. You came here to ruin everything, didn't you? She said quietly. No. I came here because I don't want to be the only one walking around with this pit in my stomach. Amanda's composure cracked then. She threw her phone onto the couch and took 2 quick steps toward the door. Get out, she snapped. I stayed seated. Amanda, no. Just no. Her voice shook. You come in here with your calm voice and your accusations like you're the noble one. You don't get to blow my life up too. Not until I know. I stood slowly. You do know? You just don't want to. Get out. Her voice rang through the house like a bell being struck too hard. I stepped past her, pausing at the door. They left together. Amanda, that's not your gut lying to you. That's your gut trying to scream. She said nothing as I walked out. The door slammed shut behind me. The wind picked up on the porch, swirling dried leaves around my feet. I stood there for a moment, staring out at the quiet street, before heading back to my truck. Back in the driver's seat, I glanced at my phone. Still no messages. From anyone. The silence was stretching now, across houses, across marriages. And it was starting to pull everything apart. 2 days of silence will teach you more about a person than 2 years of conversation. Grace hadn't called. Amanda hadn't either. And Jack? I hadn't heard so much as a car door from his side of the street. The neighborhood had taken on this strange quiet, like everyone sensed something had shifted but couldn't name what. I didn't wait around to see if the silence would break. Instead, I picked up my phone and called someone I hadn't spoken to in a couple of years. Carl Jennings. We met during our first deployment. He was the kind of guy who never raised his voice, even when bullets were flying. These days, Carl ran a PI business out of a modest office in Beaverton, mostly cheating spouses, background checks, lost assets. The stuff most people wanted to ignore until it blew up in their face. He answered on the second ring. Well, damn. Ethan Rhodes. You still alive out there? Alive, yeah. But I've got a situation. Talk to me. I think my wife's with another man, I said plainly. Name's Jack Barlow. Neighbor. Supposed to be her best friend's husband. Carl let out a low whistle. That's a double-layer mess. She's gone up to Lake Tahoe. Says it's a solo retreat. He didn't need more. I'll find them, he said. Give me 48 hours. Thanks, Carl. Ethan. Yeah. I'll be thorough. You just be ready. 2 days later, he showed up at my house with a manila envelope under his arm and a look that told me everything before he said a word. We sat at my kitchen table, where Grace and I used to eat late dinners, laugh over takeout, talk about paint colors and grocery lists. That table hadn't seen much laughter lately. Carl opened the envelope slowly, like he was unwrapping something fragile. Out came a small stack of 4x6 prints, clean, high-resolution, time-stamped. The first photo was simple. Grace, stepping out of Jack's car, her smile wide, her eyes squinting in the sunlight. Her body angled toward him like it was the most natural thing in the world. The second, Jack carrying a grocery bag into the cabin, Grace behind him with her hand resting lightly on his back. The third, them on the porch, side by side on a bench, her hand resting on his knee. His head tipped back in a laugh. The fourth, a kiss. It wasn't hasty. It wasn't stolen. It was practiced. Familiar. My hands didn't shake. My jaw didn't clench. I just stared at that photo for a long time. Carl slid the rest of the stack over. There's more. Boat dock. Inside the cabin through the windows. Same story. I tailed them for 36 hours. No sign of separation. I nodded slowly, then picked up one photo and turned it toward the light. The lake in the background was still, like glass. Their silhouettes looked peaceful, and I think that's what got me the most. Not the betrayal. The peace. I set the photo down and looked at Carl. Thanks. You okay? I took a long breath. I've been not okay for a while. Now, I'm just clear. He nodded. Need anything else? Yeah, I said. A number for a good divorce attorney. Carl didn't flinch. I know a guy in Selwood. Smart, clean, quiet. You'll like him. Set it up, I said. He pulled a business card from his wallet and placed it on the table. This guy won't waste your time. Neither should you. I walked him to the door. He gave me a firm clap on the shoulder and said nothing else. When he left, I stood at the threshold for a long moment, the envelope tucked under my arm like evidence I hadn't wanted to collect. Back inside, I poured myself a drink, one of the nice bottles I'd been saving for something good. Turns out, clarity tastes just as sharp as celebration. I sat on the couch with the photo album open in my lap. Tucker rested his chin on my foot. The house was silent, but no longer empty. There's a difference between wondering and knowing. One leaves you pacing halls at night, chasing shadows. The other? It lets you finally put your hands on the walls and start rebuilding, even if you're rebuilding alone. Amanda's name lit up my phone just after noon. I let it ring halfway through before answering. Ethan. Her voice came through quiet but direct. Can we talk? Sure. My place. 20 minutes? I'll be there. When I pulled into her driveway, the blinds were already drawn. The jasmine bush near the porch had been trimmed back since the last time I visited. Amanda opened the door before I could knock. Her face was pale, her lips pressed tight like she hadn't slept. She didn't say anything at first, just stepped aside and motioned toward the kitchen. The same kitchen where I'd once helped Jack install a new backsplash. The same table where Grace and Amanda used to drink wine and plan imaginary businesses. Amanda sat across from me. Her hands were folded tightly, knuckles pale. I want the truth, she said. I didn't speak. I just reached into my bag, pulled out the photo album Carl had given me, and set it gently on the table between us. She hesitated, just for a second, then flipped the cover open. The first photo hit her like a slap. Her breath caught. She turned the page. Another shot, Grace on the porch, her hand on Jack's chest, mid-laugh. Another page. Them on the dock. A kiss. A touch. A truth too big to ignore. Amanda covered her mouth with one trembling hand. Her other gripped the edge of the table like it might keep her from falling over. Her voice cracked. They've been doing this behind my back. My best friend, I said nothing. There was nothing left to say. Amanda's shoulders started shaking. Her eyes flooded, but she didn't cry. Not fully. Instead, she sat there in stunned silence, flipping page after page like turning each one might make it less real. Then her sadness cracked. She slammed the album shut. She sat across from me just last week. Talked about loyalty. She looked me in the eye. I nodded slowly. Grace is good at eye contact. Amanda laughed, a single, bitter sound. I feel stupid. You're not. She looked at me, her face tight with grief. How long have you known? I started suspecting when she lied about the flower shop night. Carl confirmed it 2 days ago. Amanda stared down at the album. I thought Jack loved me. I really did. A long silence passed between us. Then my phone buzzed. Grace. I didn't open the message right away. Just stared at her name. Amanda noticed. What does she want? I opened it. For words. Where are you, Ethan? I turned the phone slowly so Amanda could see it. Then, without hesitation, I typed my reply. With Amanda. Looking at your vacation album where you're kissing her husband. I hit send. Amanda swallowed hard. You're not afraid of what she'll do? I shook my head. I think Grace is about to be the one who's afraid. While we're here, please press like and let me know you're with me. The knock wasn't polite. It was hard, frantic. 3 sharp bangs like someone trying to break the door before their shame caught up with them. Amanda didn't move. She just looked at me. Her eyes said everything. I stood, walked to the front door, and opened it. Grace stood there. Hair a mess. Breath ragged. No makeup. Eyes bloodshot. She looked like she'd driven 50 miles without blinking once. Behind her, slower, quieter, Jack. His hands were stuffed in the pockets of his hoodie, and his expression was the kind of blank that only comes from being caught before you could even think of a lie. Grace stepped inside without waiting for permission. Ethan, she started, but I raised my hand and stopped her cold. Amanda stepped out from the kitchen behind me, face pale but sharp as glass. Jack's eyes widened when he saw her. What is this? Grace snapped, her voice too loud, too defensive. You two just what? Team up behind our backs. I turned and looked straight at Jack. Close the door behind you. He hesitated. Now. He did. Then I stepped forward, grabbed the front of Jack's hoodie, and slammed him hard into the wall. Grace screamed. Amanda didn't flinch. You look me in the eye. I growled through my teeth, holding him there. You sat on my deck. You ate at my table. You shook my hand like a man. Jack barely managed to stammer. I didn't mean for this to. I slammed him again. You don't accidentally drive 7 hours to a lake cabin with my wife. Say that again. Grace lunged forward. Ethan, stop. Amanda's voice cracked across the room like a whip. No. Let them finish. Let Jack explain to all of us why this doesn't count as betrayal. I released Jack, and he slid down the wall like gravity had finally remembered him. He didn't say a word. Amanda rounded on Grace then, her voice shaking but loud. You lied to me. Week after week. Called me your sister. Told me you were building a dream with me. Meanwhile, you were building something else with my husband. Wait, Amanda, please. Grace tried, her hands up, her voice trembling. I didn't plan this. I swear it just happened. Oh, don't give me that, Amanda snapped. You accidentally let him touch your hand? You accidentally kissed him on a boat? You looked so in love in those photos, Grace. It was beautiful, really. Romantic even. Grace's voice cracked. We were both unhappy. No, I cut in. You were both cowards. Jack finally spoke, barely above a whisper. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Amanda shook her head, tears now falling freely. Of course it wasn't. You thought you'd get away with it. The room was a storm now. Rage, guilt, betrayal colliding in tight air. Grace reached for me. Ethan, I stepped back. Don't. She froze. Her hand hung there, suspended in space. I wanted to tell you. You wanted to keep lying as long as it felt good, I said flatly. And now that it's ugly, you're here for damage control. Amanda's voice had gone quiet, but her eyes were volcanic. You took everything from me. Jack had no words. None worth hearing. Grace finally looked down. Shoulders slumped. Face cracked. Whatever plan she had when she walked through that door, shattered. We stood in silence for a beat. No one moved. Then I said, you both should leave. They didn't argue. Grace turned, head down. Jack followed. They stepped out into the quiet street, into whatever they thought was waiting for them. I closed the door. Amanda collapsed onto the couch. Neither of us spoke. Some truths don't need echoing. She came home that night. I heard her car before I saw it. Headlights cutting across the living room curtains like searchlights. The door opened slow. She didn't slam it this time. She didn't storm in with defense or excuses. Just footsteps. Careful. Hesitant. I didn't get up. I stayed at the dining table, the photo album sitting in front of me like a loaded weapon I had already chosen not to hide. Grace stepped into the room like someone approaching a judge. I need to talk to you, she said quietly. I didn't answer. She pulled out a chair across from me, sat down, and folded her hands tightly. Please, let me explain what happened. I still didn't speak. Instead, I opened the album slowly, like I had all the time in the world. I turned one page, then another. I stopped at the photo that didn't need words. Her wrapped in Jack's arms, on a boat dock at sunset. Her head against his shoulder, their smiles unguarded. Her face, softer than I'd seen it in months. Grace's breath caught. She stared at the image like she hadn't expected to see it printed, like the truth, once on glossy paper, became too real to deny. Her voice cracked. Ethan, that was a mistake. I tapped the page just once. Firm. She went quiet. I pushed the album toward her. No, I said, finally speaking. Look at it. All of it. She didn't move at first, but I waited. Eventually, she flipped another page. Another kiss. Another lie with evidence. I didn't mean to fall for him, she whispered. I don't care, I replied. Her eyes snapped to mine, filled with something between pleading and panic. I was lonely, Ethan. You were. Don't, I said, sharper now. Don't rewrite the story just to survive it. I wasn't trying to hurt you, she said. I stood. You did anyway. She stood too. Just let me talk to you. Let me fix this. There's no fixing it. I can explain. I pointed to the door. Leave. She blinked. What? Leave. Ethan, now. Her mouth opened, then closed again. Her eyes darted to the album. She stepped back. Just 1 foot. I don't know where to go, she said quietly. You should have thought about that before you left the first time. I didn't think this would destroy us. I stepped forward. It already did. You just didn't notice the pieces falling. Grace's voice trembled. You were always so calm. I thought you didn't care. I laughed once, low and tired. No, I cared enough to stay. You cared enough to cheat. The room felt smaller now, like the walls were leaning in, listening to every breath. She looked around, like the furniture might defend her, like our life might speak up for her. It didn't. Please, she whispered. I pointed again. Out. This time, she moved. She gathered her purse from the chair, her steps slow and uneven. At the doorway, she paused, one last glance back. I loved you. I looked her dead in the eye. Then you should have protected me. She didn't reply. The door closed behind her. I stood in the quiet afterward, letting the silence settle. She left something behind in that moment. Not an apology, not remorse. Just the sound of a woman who knew she'd finally run out of places to hide. The court date came faster than I expected. No drawn-out delays. No dragged feet. Amanda's attorney, Kendra Lyle, moved like a storm with a deadline. The kind of woman who wore quiet colors and spoke in facts that cut deeper than insults. She represented Amanda with ice and precision, and when I told her I'd be filing against Grace, too, she didn't blink. Just looped in one of her partners, and by the next morning, the paperwork was in motion. Grace tried to delay, of course, claimed she needed more time, that she wasn't ready to dismantle everything. But she'd already done that. I was just sweeping up. The courtroom was sterile, humming with whispers and shuffling papers. Grace sat across from me at the respondent's table, dressed in muted gray, her hair pulled back tight. She looked tired, not devastated, just drained. The judge read through the case details with professional disinterest, but her eyes lingered longer than necessary on the photos in the binder. Carl's work spoke for itself. Kendra stood, presented the timeline with brutal clarity. Dates, locations, missed calls, credit card receipts. She painted a picture without needing to use words like betrayal. The facts did the talking. Grace's lawyer, some exhausted family attorney with a face full of stress, tried to spin it gently. My client was emotionally vulnerable. She felt isolated. She made a mistake. When the judge finally turned to me, her voice was calm. Mr. Rhodes, do you have anything to say before I rule? I nodded, stood, looked straight at Grace. What were you missing? I asked her. Really? She didn't answer at first. Then, barely above a whisper, emotion. I waited. What kind of emotion? Her gaze dropped to the table. Yours. Mine. Anyone's. I just felt nothing. For a long time. I sat back down. That was enough. The judge ruled quickly. The house stayed mine. The accounts untouched. No alimony. No joint assets split. No appeals. No arguments. It was cleaner than I thought possible. But Amanda's part? That was colder. She filed the same week. Her lawyer added breach of trust to the claim and a demand for full removal of Grace from their shared LLC application for the flower business. Amanda didn't even tell her in person. Grace received the notice in the mail. That was Amanda's mercy, a silent severing. And just like that, Grace lost 2 homes. One built from marriage, the other from pretend dreams. A few weeks later, on one of those soft spring evenings Portland does better than anywhere else, I found myself on Amanda's porch. No fanfare, no heavy words planned, just a quiet knock, a bottle of red in one hand, and the understanding that this wasn't about fixing anything, just breathing again. She opened the door with a small smile, barefoot, wearing an old hoodie and leggings. There were dark circles under her eyes, but something had shifted since that day in the living room. Less sharpness, more steadiness. I figured we'd earned this, I said, lifting the bottle. She stepped aside. You figured right. We sat on the wooden steps, the night air carrying the scent of damp earth and distant lilacs. No one spoke for the first minute. Amanda poured the wine. 2 glasses. Simple. She raised hers. To the most expensive therapy session either of us will ever have. I smirked. And to the best-worst vacation Grace ever took. A soft laugh escaped her, quiet, surprised, but real. We clinked glasses. The silence afterward wasn't heavy anymore. Just easy. Amanda leaned her head back, staring up at the stars. You know, she said, I kept thinking I needed some dramatic closure. Like a final scream or a broken dish or something cinematic. And she took a sip. Turns out, I just needed to sit still and not hate myself. I nodded. That's a bigger victory than most people realize. We talked a little after that. About work. About the neighbors. Even about Tucker, who had officially claimed my couch as his personal throne. But not once did we mention Jack. Or Grace. We didn't need to. They were ghosts now. We'd already buried them. As the bottle drained and the chill set in, Amanda pulled her knees up and wrapped her arms around them. I'm not ready for anything new, she said suddenly, eyes still on the stars. I'm not either, I replied. Another pause. I'm glad we didn't burn down with them, she said softly. Me too. And that was it. No declarations. No promises. Just the quiet kind of peace that comes when two people survive the same storm and find themselves, by coincidence or choice, sitting on the same dry porch after the flood. When I stood to leave, she didn't ask me to stay. I didn't need to. We were already where we were meant to be. Apart. But finally whole. That was the end of my story. I still think about the moment Amanda looked Grace in the eye and didn't scream, didn't cry. Just cut her out of the business without a word. Was that strength? Or was that just a cleaner form of revenge? Tell me in the comments. Did Amanda do the right thing? And if you've made it this far, hit like and subscribe, because sometimes the calmest stories leave the deepest scars.